I had always hated walking home alone at night, but that Friday was different. The party ended later than expected, and everyone else had already gone in their own directions. I decided to cut through the quieter part of the neighborhood, thinking it would be faster. It was November, the air biting cold, the kind that makes you shove your hands deeper into your jacket pockets and quicken your pace. My shoes scraped against fallen leaves, their crunch echoing louder than I liked. The street was familiar, but something about it felt off. It wasn't just the emptiness. The windows of the houses, row after row, were completely dark. No televisions flickering, no porch lights glowing, no faint hum of life. Just silence, broken only by my footsteps. Even the wind seemed reluctant to stir. The few streetlights that worked flickered weakly, bathing the sidewalk in a pale, uneven glow. That's when I heard it. Ring. A sharp sound, out of place in the quiet. I froze. The noise came again, shrill and mechanical, cutting through the stillness. I followed the sound with my eyes and saw it. A telephone booth. One of those old glass boxes with a payphone inside, standing like a relic from another time. I hadn't noticed it there before. The booth light glowed faintly, casting a dull, unnatural blue over the cracked glass. The phone inside was ringing. I stood still, my breath visible in the cold air. No one else was around. The street was empty, the houses dark, the world quiet, except for that phone. Ring! I told myself to keep walking, to ignore it, but my feet felt anchored. My brain searched for a reason why a payphone, abandoned in a neighborhood like this, would suddenly ring. Against better judgment, I walked closer. With every step, the pressure in my chest rose. The phone continued its relentless ringing. The booth was smeared with grime, glass panels scratched and fogged. The door hung crookedly, as if untouched for years. Yet inside, the payphone gleamed unnaturally clean, the receiver vibrating with each shrill ring. I reached the door and hesitated. My reflection stared back from the glass, distorted, pale, uneasy. I wasn't sure if I wanted to see what was on the other side. Ring. I pushed the door open. It creaked loudly, like a protest. Cold intensified inside, like stepping into a freezer. My hand trembled as I reached for the receiver. The moment I touched it, the ringing stopped. Silence. For a heartbeat, I thought maybe it had been a mistake. Maybe no one was there. Maybe it was just a glitch. Then I lifted the receiver to my ear. Breathing. Not mine. Heavy. Uneven. Someone was on the other end. Hello? My voice cracked. The breathing continued, slow, deliberate, like whoever it was wanted me to know they were listening. Who is this? I asked again, pulse hammering. Finally, words. I see you. My stomach dropped. I spun around, scanning the empty street. Nothing, no movement. Dead houses, flickering light. I slammed the receiver back, but the phone rang again instantly. Ring. I stumbled out, breath fogging the glass. The sound followed me, relentless, insistent. Instinct screamed to run, but legs wouldn't obey. The phone rang a third time. Against all logic, I turned back and lifted the receiver. You shouldn't have answered, hissed the distorted, low voice. I yanked it away, but the words didn't stop. They spilled from the receiver, echoing unnaturally inside the booth. You're alone. You're not safe. They're already here. I dropped the receiver, letting it swing. Chest tightened. A faint sound reached me. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Approaching. I pressed against the glass, trying to see. Shadows stretched unnaturally under the dim streetlight, moving though no one was there. Footsteps grew louder, circling the booth. My phone buzzed. Screen black. Dead. Then flickered. One new voicemail. Message played automatically. My own voice. Don't leave and stay inside. They're waiting. I couldn't take it. I shoved the door open and ran. Shoes slapped pavement as I sprinted down the street. Houses loomed, windows blank, silence suffocating. Behind me, the phone rang again, and again, and again. The sound didn't fade. It followed me, echoing off dead houses. Lungs burned, legs screamed, but I didn't stop until I turned the corner. Ringing ceased. Panting, leaning on a lamppost, the world felt normal again. Then a faint electric buzz died. Light flickered and went out, darkness. And in that darkness, a voice whispered, so close I felt its warmth. You shouldn't have answered.
I woke up alone at a Halloween party, but it wasn't real. I remembered dozing off on the couch, the remnants of the party still buzzing faintly in my ears. The pumpkin lights flickered lazily, and the faint smell of burnt caramel popcorn lingered in the air. Somewhere in the distance, a record crackled, looping the same Halloween classic over and over. I had been surrounded by laughter, confetti, and the scent of cheap cider, but exhaustion had pulled me under, and I surrendered willingly. When I opened my eyes, the room was dark. Moonlight spilled through the shattered blinds, casting thin stripes across the carpet. I checked my phone. 3 a.m. The party should have still been raging, or at least the house should be crawling with people. Instead, silence. I swung my legs off the couch. My feet landed softly on the floor. The room smelled different now, colder somehow, and heavier. I noticed the music had stopped. No one was shouting or laughing. Not a single soul. A creak echoed from the hallway. I froze. It was faint, almost polite, but deliberate. My mind tried to rationalize it. Maybe someone had stayed behind. Maybe the wind shifted an old floorboard. Still, my stomach nodded. I stepped toward the kitchen. The cabinets looked untouched, but the table caught my attention. A small envelope lay there, like it had been placed for me. I hadn't noticed it before. It was handwritten, in a language I didn't recognize. The letters twisted and curled unnaturally, like they had been carved rather than written. I picked it up. The paper felt colder than it should, and as I held it, a faint vibration seemed to hum through my fingers, almost like a heartbeat. My pulse quickened. I wanted to set it down, but I couldn't. Something about the script called to me, tugged at the edges of my mind, whispering words I almost understood but couldn't. The hallway creaked again, louder this time. A door down the corridor shifted. Footsteps. Not mine. They didn't belong to anyone familiar. My chest tightened. I dropped the envelope. It fluttered to the floor like a living thing. I forced myself to breathe. It's just someone messing with me. I muttered aloud, though my voice sounded too loud, echoing unnaturally. I moved cautiously toward the stairs. Each step made the wooden boards groan under my weight. A sudden ringing filled my ears, sharp and piercing, like a bell clanging inside my skull. I stumbled back. Silence returned after a moment, too complete, too absolute. I tried the living room. Empty. The smell of cider had faded. The confetti lay still. Nothing moved. I realized something horrifying. I could feel eyes on me. Not metaphorically. Literally. The sensation crawled along my skin, and every shadow seemed thicker, waiting. Then I remembered. Last Halloween. The nightmare. I had dreamed it all before. A party. A house. Friends laughing. Masks. Music. And then, the same silence. The same envelope in a strange script. The footsteps. The vibrations. The ringing. I had woken up drenched in sweat, convinced it was just a dream. But now, standing in the very same arrangement, every detail mirrored my memory perfectly. I backed away, my fingers brushing the couch where I had slept. My heartbeat was deafening. I had to understand. I grabbed the envelope again. This time, I opened it. Inside, a single phrase was written in the same twisted letters. Somehow, I could understand it. You belong to the hour. The walls seemed to lean closer. Shadows curled around the corners like thick smoke. A low hum filled the house. Something pressed against the edges of my perception, just beyond sight. I could feel it shifting, watching, waiting. I ran to the stairs. Each step groaned beneath me. I needed to leave, to escape, to find someone, anyone. The front door was farther than I remembered. Every hallway stretched unnaturally. Doors that should have led elsewhere now twisted into new, impossible corridors. A vibration rose through the floor, a slow, insistent pulse. The ringing returned, sharper this time, stabbing through my skull. I dropped to my knees, covering my ears. A shadow passed over me. Something cold, intangible, brushing my shoulder. Whispering in a voice just behind comprehension. I stumbled to the window. Outside, the street was empty, bathed in silver moonlight. But the house itself, it seemed bigger, alive, breathing. I slammed the window open, gasping. The cold air hit my face. Silence. For a moment, nothing. Then, the envelope lifted, as if caught by a wind that didn't exist. The letters spun, unreadable, and the paper fell at my feet. The hum intensified. I closed my eyes, and suddenly, I was somewhere else. I woke up in my own bed. Morning light spilled through my window. I checked the calendar. December 1st. My heart stopped. A year had passed since last Halloween. Every detail of the nightmare, the silence, the envelope, the footsteps, had been real. Had I actually lived through it again? Or was I still dreaming? I heard a faint creak in the hallway. My door. I froze. The envelope was on my nightstand. In the same twisted script. My hands trembled. I didn't know if I had woken up, or if I had fallen asleep once more into something worse. I didn't touch it. I couldn't. I just stared, feeling the slow, impossible heartbeat of the house, or whatever it was, echo in my chest. And outside, the wind whispered. I woke up in my old school, but it wasn't a dream this time. I woke up with my cheek pressed against a cold wooden desk. The surface smelled faintly of varnish and dust, and for a few seconds, I thought I had dozed off during class. My old classroom, the one from elementary school, surrounded me. Rows of desks, green chalkboard with faded chalk lines, and the faint shadow of cut-out letters still taped above the blackboard. But the light was wrong. The fluorescent bulbs hummed, flickering at intervals, and through the windows I saw nothing but swirling snow. I sat up, confused, rubbing my arms against the chill. It was supposed to be September, early autumn. I remembered clearly. Yet outside, a storm raged, and frost laced the glass. I fumbled for my phone. The screen lit my face pale blue, and a shiver ran down my spine. Not from the cold, but from the display. The date read September 15th, 3 a.m. That part made sense. But the temperature warning at the top corner read minus 25 degrees Celsius. I blinked, refreshed it. The numbers didn't change. Even stranger, my phone showed no signal bars. No Wi-Fi. No emergency calls. Geolocation circled endlessly. A frozen compass spun in a loop. Then I noticed the app. It shouldn't have been there. A red square icon with no name, sitting at the bottom of my home screen. I never installed it. My stomach tightened. Against better judgment, I tapped it. The screen filled with black. Then white text appeared, slowly, as if someone were typing live. Welcome back. The classroom groaned around me, the old beams above letting out a long creak. I froze, listening. The building had been abandoned for years. At least, that's what I'd heard when they tore down the newer wing. But here I was, inside it again, as if no time had passed. Another message appeared. We know you. We always did. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. My finger hovered over the power button, but the phone vibrated before I could touch it. A sharp, unnatural buzz that rattled against the desk. New text appeared. Do you remember your nightmare? The one that began here. My pulse quickened. As a kid, I used to wake screaming about this very classroom. Snow against the windows, an unseen figure pacing the hall. The memory of it made my skin crawl even now. I stood up quickly, chair legs scraping against the floor. The noise seemed too loud, bouncing off the empty walls. And then, footsteps. Not mine. Out in the hall. Slow. Careful. Each step dragging a little before it landed. I held my breath. My first instinct was to run to the door and lock it, but I couldn't move. My legs trembled, locked in place. The phone vibrated again. You're not alone. Something brushed against the hallway door. A shadow under the frame moved, breaking the line of light. My chest tightened. I forced myself toward the back of the room, toward the teacher's desk. It felt absurd, hiding like a child, but fear made the decision for me. I crouched behind it, clutching the glowing phone like a lifeline. The app flickered. Do you want to see him again? I didn't type anything, but words filled the screen anyway. Yes. The door handle rattled. I bit my lip, hard enough to taste blood. Creak. The door opened. The figure stepped inside. For a moment, the storm outside seemed to grow quieter, muffled by the silence of the room. My eyes adjusted. A tall silhouette stood near the entrance, head bent unnaturally low, arms dangling at its sides. It didn't move closer. It just stood there, as if waiting for me to acknowledge it. The phone buzzed again. This is your nightmare. But it is not a dream. The words made my stomach drop. I remembered being 8 years old, waking from the same image, the figure by the door, the storm outside, the feeling that I was trapped inside my own fear. And here it was. Real. I wanted to scream, but my throat locked up. I wanted to bolt, but my knees wouldn't obey. Instead, I raised the phone like a shield. The screen changed. A new window opened, showing a camera feed. Not mine. The angle was too high, looking down from the classroom ceiling. And in that feed, I saw myself, huddled behind the desk, pale, eyes wide, holding the phone. And behind me, closer than I realized, the figure. I spun around. Nothing. Just the dark corners of the room. My breath came sharp and shallow. The footsteps returned, but this time they circled me. Around the desk. Slow. Deliberate. The phone buzzed again. If you want to leave, you must go back. I whispered, back where? Though my lips barely moved. Another message. Back 20 years. To the boy who dreamt of this night. Something in the air shifted, like the pressure before a storm breaks. The figure bent down, lowering its head until its shadow stretched across the floor. My chest ached from holding in my breath. The phone screen turned white, blinding, and a high-pitched ringing filled the room, drilling into my skull. I dropped the device, clutching my ears. The light expanded, swallowing the classroom, the desks, the figure. When my eyes opened, I was smaller. My hands were smaller. My shoes didn't fit the floor the same way. I was sitting at the same desk where I'd just woken minutes ago, except now the wood was newer, the chalkboard freshly washed, the cutout letters bright and whole. And across from me sat a boy, my boyhood self. He looked at me with wide, knowing eyes. Not frightened, not confused, just expectant. You made it, he whispered. His voice echoed, though he hadn't raised it. I knew you'd come. I shook my head, struggling for words. How is this happening? He didn't answer. Instead, he reached across the desk and placed his hand over mine. It was warm, solid. You have to go back, he said. But you need me to show you the way. The storm outside raged louder, the windows rattling. The figure's shadow stretched across the hallway again, searching. How? I whispered. The boy lifted my dropped phone, though now it looked older, clunkier, like the flip phones from childhood. The red square icon blinked on its tiny screen. Face it, he said simply. Face him. Then you'll wake up for real. My chest felt hollow, but I nodded. I understood, even if I couldn't explain why. The fear wasn't the figure. It was the part of me that never stopped dreaming of it. The boy stood, walked to the door and opened it. Cold wind howled through. The figure waited outside, taller now, almost filling the hall. I followed, heart pounding. The boy gave me one last look. Don't run. Just tell it you're not afraid anymore. I stepped forward. The figure leaned close, shadow swallowing my vision. I forced the words out, shaky but real. I'm not afraid. The storm's howl broke into silence. The figure dissolved into nothing, leaving only empty space and the smell of old wood. The hallway lights flickered. Then everything faded to black. When I opened my eyes, I was in my bed. Warm. Safe. The phone buzzed on the nightstand, glowing quietly. The red square icon was gone, but the date still read September 15th. And outside, snow was falling.